This is Big Country Lifestyles with Robbie Johnson of Keller Williams Realty. This show is about you, your lifestyle, your home, and our community. This is the show where we explore our area to help you find the perfect home. It's also a place where we help you sell your home. Whatever your preferred lifestyle is, Johnson Property Group wants to help you find the perfect property. Thank you for tuning in to Big Country Lifestyles.
Well, hello, Big Country, and welcome to our weekly radio show. Today in the studio is our awesome producer, Chaz, and I'm Alex Finn.
And I'm Robbie Johnson, your host and team leader for Johnson Property Group and the local office broker at Keller Williams Realty, Abilene. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, we started talking about grow houses, marijuana grow houses, and how this all came about is I saw a deceptive news article that I actually thought was truth, and I kept reading it, and it said, marijuana now legal in the state of Texas, and I thought, how in the world is this legal? I haven't heard anything about it. I keep on looking to see, is there any other articles about it? There's no other articles. I find out that the place, I guess, whatever the entity that posted this on Facebook was false news. The crazy thing is it was shared 71,000 times on Facebook, which is pretty incredible to me. But other people like myself probably thought too that it was now legal in the state of Texas. So we started doing
research, people.
Yes, exactly. Quit sharing untruths. No one ever does that. That's what Snopes is for.
Exactly.
But anyway, so we started doing a little bit of research on this because in 8 states, marijuana is legal. Well, it's not federally legal, but it's legal on the state level is what we learned. And real estate agents are now selling what could have been or maybe marijuana grow houses. So we kind of talked about what those were a couple of weeks ago. So let's recap kind of what a marijuana grow house is.
I would have to say that a grow house is typically a single family. It's a detached home that is used to legally grow marijuana completely indoors.
And I'm finding in reading all of this that what the growers were actually looking for, either in an existing home or when they were selling a home, you could tell that it was a marijuana grow house because there were things like lots of parking, because apparently for commercial scale growers, they are having to have lots of parking for people to be able to come in and I guess buy from them. This is all very new to me.
No, that's not true. They would go to a dispensary to buy. That would be highly illegal to be then selling.
Oh, okay. No. I guess that's how the feds would find them.
Yeah, they would find you very quick to be
Can y'all
selling.
tell? I'm about as honest as the day is long. I mean, I'm so honest. I don't think in terms of crime at all. I would get so caught.
Even in the legal state, you can't do that.
Okay,
that's illegal selling of drugs.
So that's the reason that everything's in a detached single family home and it's all enclosed and the windows are all covered up and those kind of things. Okay, so which another thing was garages, so that it's private. Garages are essential for loading and unloading marijuana without it being seen by the neighbors. And yards, from what I understand, they want big yards because they want to buffer the nosy neighbors. And then they want large open spaces like basements, which provides, the growers a lot of room to be able to have a lot of plants, and they need lots of lighting in these rooms and irrigation. And I know one of the things you've always talked about is the electric meters.
Well, they'll be sometimes they'll use like solar panels because you can hide the electric meter, but if it's really like if the feds wanted to go after you, they'd go check your electric bill from the power company, so you can't really get around that. So people will go and put solar panels.
Which I've heard that they're doing kind of almost like gates around their houses, like a gated community, but it's a gated house just like we have here, so that their neighbors can't go and look at their electric panels to see how much electricity that they're using. And they have security cameras around their house.
Usually in a home, you'll have a 200 amp system. There you could have multiple different ones to handle the power.
And their water bill is going to be high too because of the irrigation. But in the other show, we talked a lot about how, this can kind of become a nightmare with inspections and things like that because the solar panels can catch on fire. So there was all kind of different things with the inspections that go on, which led us to inviting Mark Perkins with Perkins Insurance Agency to come on and talk about some of the pitfalls that he could see if it is legalized in Texas. And so we talked to Mark about it, and you'll hear him in a few minutes just basically tell you, no, it's not going to happen. But so it'll be interesting to hear his take on it. But he was on the show last week, and we talked about so many other things from flood insurance and everything else that we never even had an opportunity to talk about the grow houses. So Mark is back. He's going to talk about a few other things, but we're going to at least address the grow houses with him and see what his take is on it. So with us today is Mark Perkins with Perkins Insurance Agency, and he's been waiting for this topic to get to talk about it for a couple of weeks now, and I've been holding him to it. I think he avoided it.
Yes.
He avoided it last week.
How did you like that, by the way?
And then I said, you're coming back. So here is your first question, Mark. You're going to answer all of my questions today.
Okay.
So the first one is, do you think that homeowners insurance will cover medical marijuana under contents coverage if marijuana becomes legal in the state of Texas?
Let me think about that. No, it would not. I
told y'all that's what he was going to do. Darn.
No, it would not. So there are a few things with that come into play. Other states that have legalized marijuana, and I've checked with an insurance agent friend of mine in Colorado and asked him about this question. And the answer there, too, is no.
No.
It's still not covered. And the reason why is because it's a Schedule I drug, which is a federal legalization or illegalization of that substance. And so insurance companies have taken the stance that because it's a Schedule I drug, it's illegal, it's an illegal substance, we don't intend to cover anything, either illegal activity or illegal contraband, which drugs would be considered a contraband, Schedule I drug, marijuana would be. So from a federal standpoint, the answer is no. And the insurance companies have taken a pretty hard stance on that and looked up some case law on that, and they're winning. Because it's an illegal substance, the exclusions in the homeowners policies are pretty straightforward about that.
So when the shrubs, they're calling them shrubs, are catching the house on fire.
I guess they could be, maybe. I don't know.
Well, that's what I heard, that they were calling them as shrubs that they're catching on the fire. They're actually going in and doing their homework and seeing that it was marijuana based.
Yes.
Okay, so here's my next question. How to pose this? What is going to happen in the insurance world if it is ever legalized in Texas? How are we going to take care of grow houses that are in existence already and we resell these, and they may have been set up as grow houses, so you've already got all the irrigation in the house, which could cause flooding problems, or you've got the electrical panels that are all messed up from them because they've been overworked and overused. What happens if something happens to the house later on? Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say?
Yes, it does. I think the answer to that would be the insurance industry is very reactionary in its stance. And so right now they feel very comfortable about where they are with regard to property insurance or liability insurance, either way, from a standpoint of marijuana, medical marijuana even as well. And these grow houses that may be growing to produce and resell, even if not for their own consumption, which leads us to a whole other question we may get to a little bit later about in-home business, that they might consider that as
exactly
in-home business for medical marijuana and the growth of that. And so the insurance industry is very reactionary to that. And so I don't anticipate that there will be a change in their stance on it. From a standpoint of coverage, there might be a change in the standpoint on how they underwrite a policy. And I'm not sure yet because obviously it's not in Texas. We don't know how they're handling that in other states at this point. But I would imagine, like in some instances in the past with hail damage being an issue to roofs and that not getting replaced, some particular companies have come back and required pre-inspections or inspections of roofs or proof of updates. And even we get into that now with older homes that we need to require, let us know the updates to the electrical, let us know that the plumbing's been updated, let us know that the wiring's been updated, the roof, those sort of things. And so as that comes into play, if it does, then potentially, there may be some underwriting questions to that on the front end.
Y'all know what we can notice, how in other states where it is legal statewide that businesses aren't interacting with it. is banks.
Mm-hmm.
A bank won't touch that money, even though it's legal in the state.
Oh, you're talking about their money that they're getting from it.
And that's a good example is the banking and insurance industry.
Yeah, you're right.
Even in a legal state, they're not touching it.
Right.
That's interesting.
Right.
Well, because as you said just a few minutes ago,
it's laundering illegal money. Well, to the feds, that's what you're doing is you're laundering money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting from that standpoint, backing up to insurance a little bit. The banks are taking that financial standpoint, and I get that totally. Actually, Lloyd's of London, some of the syndicates over there have produced insurance policies for medical marijuana dispensaries like in Colorado.
Okay, so thank you for addressing this topic with us and not just constantly saying no, that you actually talked about it is amazing to me. And now think about it. You're prepared if this is ever passed, the legislation's ever passed.
You're kind of making me do my homework.
Yeah, exactly. That. You've done your homework on this. So anyway, we're going to move on a little bit because I do want to talk about some other topics. Insurance is always a hot topic. So tell us, besides, getting, trying to find discounts from growing marijuana and things like that, what are some of the discounts and ways that buyers can save on their home insurance premiums?
Well, the first thing I would advise buyers to consider is what we call bundling. It's kind of become the term in the industry. It used to be called companion policy discounts, or having your home and your auto together with the same carrier. The term bundling has become popular these days, but consider placing your home and your auto together with the same insurance carrier.
My husband called you yesterday about that very thing.
Yes.
Okay,
and I think you've already done that. Yes.
Okay, I didn't know. I just heard him on the phone with you.
So
okay.
it really does. That's the biggest discount. That's where you'll notice the biggest savings on both policies, actually, because you'll get a discount on the homeowner side for having your auto, and on the auto side for having your home insured by the same carrier. So that's the first thing. There are other things like the age of the roof. There are the age of the house.
I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
Age of the roof.
Yes.
So do you do a roof inspection? Do y'all do a roof inspection for, like, when we sell a house? Do you go out and do a roof inspection?
It depends on the company. There are only a few carriers that actually make us do roof inspections.
Okay.
So in our agency, we do on occasion, just depending upon the company that we place it with.
So advise us now, if we're in the option period, they've gotten their insurance quote. Should I then call you and say, Mark, is this a company that's going to require a roof inspection? Should we be getting this before the closing?
That is a great question. I would say that we will notify you or the buyer that we need to do that.
Okay.
There's really only one company I can think of that would require us to actually notify that we're doing a physical inspection. The other companies of ours that we do inspections on, it's me, the agent. We have one particular company, they do that through a third-party vendor, and they're a little more strict than some of our other carriers. So I wouldn't say that I would necessarily say that I need to notify you or you need to notify me or ask that question.
Okay.
But speaking of roofs, one thing I would advise is to know the age of your roof if you can.
Okay.
Because there are some changes coming to insurance policies that will really affect how claims are paid out based on the age of the roof. So for instance, if your roof, when you buy that house, is 15 years old, or you can't prove that it's newer than 15 years old, companies are coming in and doing a scheduled payout instead of a replacement cost. So not to get too deep in the woods about...
it's like a depreciation.
It's almost a depreciation. They're not calling it depreciation, but it really works out that way. So you pay your deductible, and then based on the age of the roof, they say, okay, if it's 15 years old, we're going to pay you 75% of the replacement cost value after your deductible. And then there's a table to show on down to however old the roof ends up being if it's 30, 40 years old. So the older the roof, potentially... with some carriers, the less you're going to get at claims time for hail damage. And it really only applies to hail damage. So if you have a fire at that house and it destroys the home, well, they're not going to schedule depreciate or schedule payout that roof for you. It's only applicable to hail.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
So if there's a tornado or something like that, you're okay.
You're okay.
Because there's going to be other home repairs. Is that what it comes
and really
with?
what they're trying to do is they're trying to mitigate losses that they pay out because of hail damage.
Okay.
It's really a byline coverage. They are going directly after hail damage and trying to keep that cost down on the company side, on the payout side for claims, because it's been such an issue. If you think back to Abilene a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, starting in 2011, yes, and then again in 2014.
Yep.
And so then in Dallas, if you think over there, the last few hail storms that they've had, year in and year out, it seems like they're trying to adjust their payout some way to where they're not replacing a roof every 2 or 3 years. And so this is a pattern that they've gone to, especially for older homes or older roofs. I'm sorry, that schedule valuation. They're saying if it's not been replaced, it's not a new roof. It's not a replacement value. It's a scheduled valuation because there is some depreciation that could be involved there.
Would you drop their policy, how much you're charging them then, because there is worth less?
Yes, they do. What that looks like yet, still debatable, I think, because this is a very new way to handle this coverage.
But that's something that could happen.
But yes, they're supposed to. And of course, they have to file their rates with the State Department of Insurance here in Texas. And based on that lower payout, they have to reduce it some. So yes, the answer is absolutely yes, they do. How much that is yet at this point, it's negligible, really, but they do.
Okay, so I interrupted you with the roofs. So other
discounts.
So
I think
there's some new things. To security systems or something.
Yeah, security systems absolutely always get a little bit of discount. Those are not as big as they used to be. Now you can even get discounts if you have electronic policy delivery. If you have
a what?
Like electronic,
like email.
They're not mailing you a policy out.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Some companies will give discounts for that. Some will give discounts if you are billed electronically as well, either EFT or through email. You get your bills through the email instead of through the regular mail, or some of those. And those are the major ones.
Okay.
Also, the more policies you can get together. So like we talked about the home and the auto. If you have a boat or a toys, we call them in the industry, a boat, personal watercraft, an RV, motorcycle, second homes.
RVs, things like that.
All of those, the more you can get with a carrier, typically the more discounts they will apply to your home policy with that. And there's usually a cap at what they're going to apply. So you can't get your home insurance for free. They're going to cap it at some point. But it definitely will save you some money if you combine as many policies as you have, especially if you have several policies or several things that you're trying to insure. It's easier for you to have one bill for one carrier, one claim, or one claim to call, one place to call for claims. And so those are the big discounts.
So calling for claims, tell me a little bit about swimming pools. Buying a house with a swimming pool.
So swimming pools are typically easily insurable. There's a few things to know about. You want to make sure it's fenced.
Okay,
is it fenced? And most of them are.
Okay, wait. Fenced.
Yes.
Are you talking about a fence around the yard? Are you talking?
That was the question.
Are you talking about a fence around the pool? I want our listeners to visualize what you're saying. So are you talking about a fence around the pool or a fence around the yard?
Robbie,
or both?
The questions they ask is the pool fenced?
That's it.
That's it.
Pool is fenced. Got it.
Fenced.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So if it's fenced, we say it's fenced.
So they're not getting a double fence discount.
Right.
Okay. Got it.
And I know where you're going with that. Sometimes we see around here 2 or 3 acres with a house that has a pool out in the back that maybe there's no fence around any of it. Well, that's unfenced.
Unfenced. Got it.
So if it's fenced. The other thing would be diving boards are sometimes a kicker with insurance companies. They will kick that out if it has a diving board and make you remove that diving board or even a slide. And that's not every insurance company, but there are some. Yeah. And you know what? Those
it's a liability.
It is, absolutely right. And those that I don't know why it always seems to work out this way, but those with the best rate typically have that exclusion. Hey, we can't write the house if it has a diving board or a slide. For some reason, it tends to work out that way. And so if there's one, we have to address it. And I've actually had a client of mine who had a slide and had such a good rate on his homeowner's insurance premium with this particular company. He removed his slide, took it out. So it can be an issue, but it can be resolved.
Okay. And I don't know why my brain went here, but I started thinking about dogs. I had one of my clients shared with me that after they closed on the home, I don't know if they had to do some type of, Jeff takes care of everything. I don't know if they had to do some type of questionnaire or something, but the insurance company learned that they had a particular breed of dog, and it became a major problem for their homeowners insurance. Do you find that a lot with dogs? Is that typical, or was it just them?
There is a vicious breed list, and I can't tell you what that is. I know like pit bulls, Rottweilers are in there. Beyond that, I'd be just guessing at this point. But there are some breeds that companies absolutely will ask about, and if you have them, they will not insure you.
Well,
why don't I just say I don't have one?
Well, you can try that.
The only
We'll see what
problem would be
happens.
if there would ever be an attack at your home.
Yes,
You're
you
going to
got
be in a
problem.
lot of trouble,
Absolutely.
especially if it attacks. Our little dog was so vicious and did attack someone. I mean, we had a little dachshund that was just terribly vicious. It wasn't excluded, and thank goodness we never had to pay out a claim on it, but we had to get rid of the dog because of it biting people.
Right.
So,
Well, obviously, let me clarify. You don't want to ever not tell the truth on your application process for various reasons. Not only will you not get a claim paid, but you could be prosecuted. So you want to make
Really?
sure. Oh yeah,
Okay.
you're committing insurance fraud. If you do it intentfully to deceive, then you're
I
committing
think
insurance
way
fraud.
too honestly. I don't think in terms of criminal activity ever. So, my really is usually really sincere. It amazes me that people do that, but I know
it's
that they
rare.
do. So, okay, umbrella policies.
Yes, glad you
doesn't
brought that up.
Cover you in the rain.
No, it's not one that covers. Yeah, we're not talking about the covers for your rain umbrella. So those individuals who have a home, have an auto, and maybe have those rent houses or boats or personal watercraft, lake house, something like that, and really any individual that has a home or an auto, we usually recommend an umbrella. And what that is extra liability coverage that sits over your homeowner's liability or your auto liability. And where the really great potential for getting into that coverage would exist is on the road in driving your vehicle. One of the things in the industry we've seen recently is a surge in auto claims. And this is kind of outside of property and real estate that we're talking about, but this goes hand in hand. But the auto claims have spiked. And what do you think that's caused by, if you had to guess? Alex? Put you on the
I
spot.
have no idea.
Okay.
I was thinking about.
I'm catching you off guard now. So texting and driving is a big issue.
Of course.
Right?
We should have said that.
Right.
Even talking on the phone.
Talking on the phone.
He was talking on the phone to me today and missed his turn.
Yes.
Because you're not paying attention.
And I texted you that I was on the way over here before I came. So yeah,
I thought you were doing talk to
Tisk,
text.
tisk.
Oh, you told on yourself,
But I wasn't driving
Mark.
yet. I was in the parking lot. So the auto exposure is a huge example where if I'm texting and driving, run a red light, and the worst happens, do I have enough coverage on my auto insurance? Well, that umbrella sits over the top of that, and it provides an extra limit of liability. And for those individuals who have have gained some wealth in their life and have maybe a lake house or toys or the toys of the boats, the RVs, the watercraft, those things, it makes sense to have it. And it's really inexpensive. It may be $250, $200, $300 a year, just depending on your situation. So
Okay.
it's really affordable. And we're talking about $1 million in coverage.
So you.
Oh, you go ahead. I've got a question after you. I don't want to forget it, but go right ahead.
No.
Can I go first?
Yes, you can.
Okay, good. I have a question. So let's say, because you were talking about a lake house.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that I own that lake house. I mean, of course I own it, but I've put it in an LLC. Do I have to get coverage through that LLC for insurance, or do I have to list that LLC as an owner under me, that I own that LLC? And I'm asking you that question because many years ago, I owned a business that got robbed. And because the merchandise was owned in a different LLC than the building was, it wasn't listed properly on the policy, and we lost a lot of money.
Okay. I keep saying this, but you really are asking some really good questions, and that's a good one. We've seen a surge in that where individuals are buying either second locations or rental property especially, and putting it in closely held, family-owned LLCs for liability protection. Great idea. Companies are catching on to that, and they are allowing us to insure that in the LLC name. Some of our carriers are very flexible with that. What they really want to know is who makes up the LLC. Is it Robbie and Jeff Johnson, or is there other people involved with that? If there's a lot of ownership interest in that, then that becomes iffy. But if it's a closely held family LLC, whether it's the husband and wife, or maybe it's the husband or the wife, either one, then that's great. We can insure it in that LLC name, and we actually do that pretty frequently.
So it's best that if you have all of these separate LLCs for property, that they are having their own individual policies.
Yes.
It's not going to umbrella under my name.
Generally not.
Okay.
Generally not.
I'm going to check on that tonight
Good.
to make sure that we are okay with that. I'm so glad that we're doing this.
You're thinking ahead.
No, I am
but
thinking.
It is. But maybe to ask about your business or your property question, like your contents and your dwelling coverage. I've not had that issue yet. So as far as I know, our claims, if our policies would pay, because we're writing in the LLC, and if there's contents there's contents coverage for that LLC, especially if it's a residential home, lake house, for instance. Then
I just
yes,
want to ensure that our LLCs are covered, and he's not thinking they're covered under.
you need to check.
I do.
Yes.
I do. Okay.
Well, speaking
Yes.
of potential in-home businesses, Mark, are there any type of home businesses generally covered by insurance?
Home business is generally excluded. So going back to our previous topic,
Yeah, grow
if
houses.
those grow houses are using their house to grow and they're selling that product and it's legal in Colorado, or if it were to become legal in Texas, in-home businesses are generally excluded, both for the contents and for the liability. Daycare, like in-home daycares. I know Abilene had passed an ordinance recently or several years ago to allow some in-home daycares with up to a certain number of kids in the daycare, and that is excluded by a homeowner's policy.
I have a question for
Yes,
you.
sir.
Okay, so that's interesting that you just said that. So in a legal state, statewide, if the property you cannot insure because they register as a home business, if they're growing to sell to a distribution center, can they not get homeowners insurance because they're registering that property as a home business?
No. Well, yes, they. I'm confused with your question.
Well,
Okay,
he's
so
saying if you have a
you're-
residential property,
Yeah, that you're
but
living
you've
in.
registered that residential property
Right.
as a commercial business,
Right.
the commercial business would carry.
But I'm
the-
growing also, right? Is that what you're
Exactly,
saying?
in that, but that is his business. That's what he was asking.
Yeah, if I owned
Yeah.
a home there and I went and started growing a bunch of pot and I did and said it was a home business and I live there, I can't get homeowners insurance then.
I would say no. Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. I would agree with you on that.
Well, and even let's think about even like hair salons. There's so many women who do hair salon. Well, not just women and men who do hair salons sometimes in their home.
Right.
So how do you divide that out, Mark?
Yeah,
It's
that's what
like
I'm wondering.
Square footage part is the business, and
It can be sometimes, yes. And depending on what it is, there might be a company that would consider that. So we would talk about that with the
Okay.
client and see what it is. Generally, they will ask, how many square feet is it occupying in the house? Is that in-home business occupying? And if it's over a certain percentage, probably 20 to 25%, then yeah, they're going to be out. Most of the market would be out on that. If it's under that, then depending on what it is, but I would lean more towards the side of generally most of the time, in-home businesses just aren't covered, the liability or the contents.
interesting.
Right.
Okay, so Chaz is like in the background telling us to hush, and I got a lot more things to talk about. So it looks like Mark's coming back next week.
Yeah.
Yay! So, okay, I wanted to talk about real estate values versus replacement cost.
Oh, awesome.
Let's just kind of start, and then we'll
briefly,
finish.
yeah, absolutely. Briefly, those two values sometimes don't align, and there's some reasons behind that. But the gist of it is, the real estate value is what the market will bring, what that property will bring from a buyer and a seller. The replacement cost value is really based on what it would take in today's dollars or at the time of the loss to rebuild that property, which could be something pretty different than what that property sells for today. And so we can talk more about that next week and really dive into that and
Oh yeah, because
give
I've
you an
got
example.
You know me. I have got lots of questions about.
Yes, they're good,
Which
too.
is what prompted that phone call to you from Jeff. Was I believe replacement cost is what they were sparring over on the telephone.
And that happens, yes.
Oh, I bet. I
We
bet.
see that a lot.
We really appreciate you being here.
Oh, well, thank you. This has been a pleasure. I'm actually
it's
very
been
thrilled
fun.
to be able to come back next week and do this again. Thank you for letting me be a part of it, and hopefully it's been
fun.
helpful for you.
So tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
Two ways. Our website is perkins-ins.com, or give us a call at 325-673-9300.
Or you can find us on Facebook, Johnson
On
Property
Facebook.
Group, or our Big Country Lifestyles radio show, which you'll find Mark there as well. So if you want to learn more about choosing experience for your real estate needs, then please make the choice to give us a call at 325-428-9114. Or as I said, visit us online at Johnson Property Group or Big Country Lifestyles radio show. You can go on and ask questions. We can certainly for next week, if you have questions for Mark about insurance that maybe we haven't covered, it would be a great time to go online on Facebook and put those questions there. You can always text me too. Leave me a voice message. I can be reached at 325-428-9114. We really want to be interviewed for the job to become your realtors of choice. We really feel we are the market experts. And again, that number is 325-428-9114. We look forward to seeing you next week. We're out of here to go sell houses.